Okay, it's just a bit delayed on YouTube today, it appears. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes YouTube's ahead of GoToWebinar. Sometimes GoToWebinar is ahead of YouTube. It's a bit odd. But anyway. Right, US dollar index is range bound after bounce off support last week. We talked about this. But because the yen wasn't particularly strong on Friday, then the US dollar rallied a little bit. It was primarily because of that. Gold doesn't seem to care. It's testing record highs today. Probably the story of the day so far. We'll check out the chart in a moment. Copper's also looking very perky. He is testing a key level to the upside. Again, it's been trading under 550 for some time. It looks as though it's given it a crack this morning. All his range bound bounced off 4-year lows last week. We saw a breach, a close beneath that. It was actually February 2021 that it was last at these levels. Similar to the US employment numbers that came out last week, to be honest. Is that related? Anyway, Bitcoin mid-range after testing support. Again, we'll check out a chart in a moment. And as I said, some key data out this week. So the UK GDP is out today, is the final GDP, so it's not likely to move markets significantly or move away from expectations significantly. This preliminary number that tends to do that. And the US is releasing its preliminary number tomorrow. We've got also weekly jobs and ADP all due this week before we close down for Christmas. But just, I said there was a sting in the tail from the BOJ potentially. The BOJ governor is a speech on Christmas Day. Is he going to upset markets by, when they're all enjoying their turkey, going to invoke something spectacular to start the new year off? Good to hear. Always working on them. Right, let's have a look at a bit more detail, and then we'll check out some charts in a second. Let me just pop screens around a little bit. Let's take a quick scan of the futures, and there you can see they're looking positive. The Nasdaq seems to have some buyers come back into it. Maybe it's an end of year sort of decision that maybe we need to get back into some of these AI Magnificent Seven type stocks that the pressure of late. And you can see also buying on the futures into crude oil, gold, copper's a bit flat. FX markets a wee bit on the flat side, a little bit of strength in the USD, a little bit of weakness in the euro. But a fairly typical Monday morning, I would suggest. Let's just quickly look at Forex Factory. We can see here that we did have the Chinese, no change at all in the prime rate in China. There's that final GDP out of the UK later. Tomorrow we've got the monetary policy meetings coming from the RBA. That is likely to say whatever everybody thinks anyway, that the next move in Australia is more likely to be up than down at this stage. They've got some CPI numbers coming out of China. Maybe that's what. That's still high. That does give them the scope to move again if they need to. And there's that big US GDP number. That's really important. We are expecting a pullback in that rate. It's not likely to influence the Fed likelihood of a January pause. It's currently priced in. There's only about a 20% chance that the Fed will cut rates in January. More likely to be March. But a surprising number to the downside may, and some increasingly poor job numbers may make the Fed change their mind and just put another 0.25%. They have talked about this balancing of risk, the risk of sticky inflation versus the risk of a softer economy. So that's going to be interesting. Durable goods are important, expected to be negative. And then we've got the weekly jobs out on Wednesday, just to finish the day off. I think it's a shortened day on, I think it's usually 1 o'clock finish on Christmas Eve in the US. But I'll double check that for you. And then, as I said, we've got the BOJ Governor Ueda speaking. just yeah, close at 1 o'clock in the US. I've just had done a little check on you for that, just so you're aware. Right. Okay. So that's sort of interesting. And as I said, there is some key data coming out of Japan on Friday as well. Retail sales and industrial production employment rates, core CPI, again, a Boxing Day feast of data out of Japan. Right, let's just check in on what Asia's doing as a whole. So as I said, I've kept the benchmark index, trying to keep the benchmark index as it was. Nikkei is rampant this morning. You can see the ASX is up nearly 1%. The Shanghai was a bit flat early on, but seems to be gathering some momentum. And the Hang Seng is up 0.4%. Nothing really unusual there. And let's just check how the ASX is doing in a little more detail. As I said, up about 9.9%. We haven't moved much. Resources are rocking and rolling today. If we look at we'll get 3-to-1 risers versus decliners. And if we look at the sector split, you can see there every sector to the upside at this stage. Just watch this. This level in November was really interesting. Obviously, we hit the highs in November at just under 9,100. This is a nice pickup in the ASX. 8,700 looks important. Okay, let's see if we can hold that into the back end of the day. That could be interesting. Let's have a look at some charts for right now. I want to start by with a little bit of Bitcoin. We were concerned that it might breach this 84,300, where you can see there. Retain its position in this range. If we just bring this in a little bit so you can see it a bit clearer. But we had that fairly clear down move, and then we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wick reversal potentially, and some buyers coming back in over the weekend to follow through on Friday's move. We've got a positive day in Asia today. I'm not sure I would jump up and down about this, to be perfectly honest, but that level at 89,600 looks as though it could be important. You can see that it tested it last week before the drop, and on the daily chart, a move through that could suggest a retest of 100,000. Maybe that's where Bitcoin will end up at the end of the year. It would sort of be a nice round number for it to finish the year on. Back to the US indices, you can see that bounce for the NASDAQ. A bit of buying coming back in at the end of the year. Really nice bounce off that level now, which 24,700 looks like a level to watch. Key level on this is 25,840. You can see that was the high a couple of weeks ago. I mean, just to put it all into context, right? This is intraday highs on the NASDAQ. Intraday record highs, and we're only 2.9% beneath that. So despite all the doom and gloom, despite the slings and arrows of outrageous US administrations, despite worries about global slowdowns, despite concerns about AI evaluation, we're less than 3% from record highs. It's really important that you step back every now and then and just look at context. That's context. So the buyers are in. We're looking at a shorter term potential position. We'll just have to take this out. I wouldn't be enthused. I think it could hit some noise here around about 25,560, 25,600 sort of area. I think where to look at this would be if we get look. There's a potential. If you're really on top of this, the next level it might pause is around about 25,523. That is, in essence, a 100-point move. Oh no, an 80-point move from where we are now. So if you are looking for a shorter term opportunity, then the buyers are certainly in. You've got some nice levels to place risk stops, etc. Let's pop onto the USD. There's that honor of support at 97.50, which we thought might happen. Whichever way you slice it, it's still in a downward trend channel. 98.45 is the resistance on this. But we do have some buys in, but flat today. But gold is not flat. There you can see, is that an intraday record high? I see. I think it is. Let me just pop up. It's bang smack on it. Now 43.83 is the level to watch. And the buys are in. Buys are in. So look, all-time nosebleed highs. But it's a compelling stay. But just be aware that despite this sort of grind upwards that we've had over the last sort of 10 days, the wicks have been quite long compared to bodies, which does suggest a little bit of reposition as it's gone up. Oh yeah, we'll nick a little profit, we'll nick a little profit, we'll nick a little profit. So the intraday moves haven't been spectacular, but you can't deny that we are grinding up. Let me just pop it on the 4-hourly chart. On the 4-hourly chart, you can see there why it's gone as it's gone. We had a level of interest there at 43.53, and we've just smashed through it. And we've smashed through it with some vengeance, and are continuing to do so. So gold's really interesting. Copper's also interesting. We can see there that 550 level that I've been about on before. Why is this important? It's important because of what happened here in July. It became the confirmation point for a double top. The fact that we're testing it, and now almost completely reversed Trump's 50% imposition of tariffs on copper, is really quite spectacular in terms of a recovery. We've been talking about this regularly throughout the last couple of months, particularly from the middle of November when it breached this 522. A level to watch. It's not breached it yet, so some patience is required, of course. We see evidence here why you wait until we've had a breach, but you've got to be impressed by that intraday high on Friday, and to me, that is the level. Rather than wait until end of day and go, and if you wanted to enter early, that's going to be the level at 556 that's going to encourage some more buyers to come in theoretically. As for oil, we've got that bounce off those 4-year lows at 55. A little bit of positivity in Asia. So the major asset classes, certainly gold, copper, the ones to watch. Right, onto the FX markets. And as we said, the US dollar had a great day versus the yen on Friday. Brought us up to highs. Again, a technical high that we hit back here on the 20th of November. So tested 157.71, but looks as though it's not quite as enthused to push through it. Of course, it was also, there's November. If we do breach, there's a potential trade up there up to 160 with very little stopping it either way. Interesting. So once to keep on your radar. As I said, we have had this. We'll get this pullback. There could even be a short opportunity here. But just keep an eye on 157.17. This looks like a profit-taking retracement at this stage, but that level is interesting. Look at the Aussie US on daily chart. You can see this is sort of in consolidation after a retracement. Deciding what the next move may be, it's as is always the case, or often the case, more often than not. We've popped down to a previously tested level around about 66. So 66 to the downside, 66.82 to the upside of the two key levels on this. I'm wondering whether we might get a breach of that and a move to the downside. I think the pressure may be shorter rather than longer, but you've got quite a distance before you'll get interested in this. Keep 65.93 maybe on your radar to the downside. If it goes up, it looks as though it's going to get stuck Sorry about that. So Euro USD, it's coming down to 156. Yeah, I agree, Joe. I think it could come down quite a lot from where it is now. Euro USD, you can see that pullback back to 116.91 or 117. Again, I think this is this is an interesting one. So the euro strength, despite US weakness, is really what we're seeing. We just had that. Look, that just looked like a messy chart to me. Forget it. Nothing going on in the euro or the. Let me just have a quick look at the Aussie yen. That's an interesting chart again. See, again, we've got a very similar chart to the USD. So two levels of interest are really the top and bottom of the last week. 104 is 104.10 to the upside, 102.43 to the downside. To me, again, the more likely direction in this is downwards. But of the two pairs of the US yen versus the Aussie yen, I think the Aussie has the better chance of popping forward. There's a really clear line in the sand here. I know we're sort of range bound at the moment. I'm just going to move that to there and there. So 104 and 130 in a short-term range. A breach of 140 would a 140.30 would be noteworthy. You probably just be a bit patient, just to give it some wiggle room to wait for a breach through 103.81 on the Aussie yen. I like the Aussie yen. I'm going to make that my chart of the day because I think it's almost a one cancels the other type of environment. And with continued Aussie strength, the Aussie may well outperform in 2026. The article I've just written ago, which sort of looked at what might do well versus what in terms of versus the USD particular, which I'm fairly bearish on, to be honest. But I think the Aussie may outperform simply because the RBA more likely to raise than cut. That interest rate differential is always really quite important. But so just keep an eye on Aussie yen. It's my FX chart of the day. Let's just check out some. Let's just check out some stocks and just switching accounts for a second. There we go. Right. Okay. So we could put there. Yeah. These guys are alive somewhere. Okay. What we'll do is just pop in the sky and show which can make it easy. Right. Blank. So for those of you who have access, we sort of made the scanners available. Let me just find. And let it populate. So a good day at the office. A couple that we've been watching. IEL we watched. Continues to do well. This was the chart of the day last week on one of the sessions. And it has actually breached that. I did suggest a move up to 670, so that's still rocking and rolling. Very worthwhile keeping an eye on. I really need to do that. There we go. Euro USD. Elsewhere, uranium stocks got belted a couple of times over the last while. We see some buying coming back in. Paladin on the daily chart looks as though 981 is interesting. Really strong move in Paladin today. That's quite a significant move from the close on Friday, we're up nearly 8%, 9%, sorry. So really strong move in Paladin. There's the bounce off the 200 MA, which is now support resistance where it is. That's certainly worth keeping on your radar, I would suggest. Rio is at a high not seen forever. So we breached 143.35, 145. It's breached. That's really impressive. I know stocks have been rocking and rolling over the last sort of little while, just grinding away. That's a very positive move on Rio. Let's just check on FMG. It doesn't look quite as tasty. No, it doesn't. It's holding up okay. But we seem stuck in between sort of 22.60 and 23.20. So Rio's definitely better. Looking sort of slightly better. IGO, we're also looking perky when I was having a quick look at the weekend. There's the chart on IGO. So very, very much a materials day. And you'll see how quick it is to find opportunities with this scanner. It's really quite simple. Let's see if we can find something that's obviously gold stock's doing really well, but like Evolution Mining. BVS for another one we're keeping an eye on. That's so close. That's the with this scanner. It just sort of gives you opportunities that might be developing rather than waiting until they've gone. 267. I like this up to $3. So you've got about 4, because I'm a nice guy, 4 charts of the day, and how quick were they to find? Pretty cool, like. Potential 9% move up to that hits. We traffic, there may be a pause here at around about 276, 280. But that might be a point at which to sort of trail a stop up. If you've got one in, the 244 would make an obvious stop choice below the 200 MA, even if you're thinking long term for BVS, which continues to look strong. So BVS, Rio, and IGO are the 3 I really like at this stage. See if there's anything slightly removed. And IEL, sorry, I think continuing. Paladin, worth keeping on. Obviously, Sandfire are doing really well. There's another breach of a on the back of copper prices, and again, this is record high territory for Sandfire. So, actually, I really like Sandfire. How's that? 5 opportunities in 5 minutes. Very cool. Let's look at the US. Really sharp bounce for Nvidia. Maybe of interest if it breaches 183. Are we in for a bit of a Santa Claus buying semiconductors and AI related stocks? I think we could be. There is a US version now of the. There's just too many stocks really to do on this session. Let's check out Google. Looks as though a lot of the big boys are recovering, now established supports in place. We liked airlines, and then we had a pullback. Maybe the pullback's done. That's a clear profit taking pullback, it looks like to me. Some buyers come back in on Friday. Let's have a look at Delta. Yeah, very similar story for Delta Airlines. So there could be an opportunity there. Would be a point at which people get in. Be cautious. Micron, which has been one of our favorite stocks of the year, and starts to look as though we've got a very nice reversal pattern on this. You can see there. And we are testing highs. Let's just take it back out again. Sometimes it takes a little while for the new data to, but there we go. There's the reversal. There's the bounce, 265. That's my chart of the day, Micron Technology. Right, there you go. All done for today and for this week. 2 things I want to say before we go. First of all, of course, have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. with those that you care about. And secondly, I want to just say thank you to everybody for all the support, for popping in whenever you've been able to pop in. There's a couple of you I'll see on other webinars. One last thing, there is a webinar tomorrow night, just in case you're not part of it. I am going to send you through a link. Actually, what I'll do is I'll do two things. First of all, I'm going to send a reminder link. So if you get this reminder link, it means you're already registered and you need to do nothing. So it's done. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to send you to the link just in case you didn't get that. So you can make sure you're registered. We're going to talk AI. I'm going to do some wonderful things. So I'm going to talk about AI. I'm going to just show you what it can do, and also you'll walk away with some prompts that essentially will be gifts to allow you to do some wonderful things on ChatGPT. I've been working quite hard on this lately, so it's going to be lots of stuff explained. I may show you, I'm not going to show you coding in any detail, but I'm going to show you lots and lots. Going to talk about the power of the prompt. I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've developed. I'm going to talk about how wonderful it is and get you excited. And if there isn't jaw drop moments, I'll be very surprised. So if you haven't been part of that, even if you've been part of the stuff before, then that's cool. Thanks, Wayne, and to you, buddy. Really appreciate it, as always. So you guys take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Go do some Christmas shopping. I know I need to. I'll see some of you later. I'll see some of you tomorrow. Take care for now.